This is a Xenolink data view analysis for ConnorGarrigan. This is for a hockey skate acceleration from dead stop. We'll begin by looking at the acceleration of the center of mass. What we look at here is the initial push-off here, which comes from the left side, followed by the first gait cycle, right side, left side, and so we essentially have our first three steps. We look at that by looking at what we call heel strike, mid-stance, toe off, heel strike, mid-stance, toe off, and then heel strike, mid-stance, toe off as we cycle through. So left, right, left. What we typically like to see here is a pattern of initial acceleration from the push-off, right? And then what we'll get is an acceleration with a lull through mid-stance and a burst of speed from mid-stance to toe off. And then a lull through mid-stance and a burst of speed through from mid-stance to toe off. So we have that effective pattern. Peak speed at the end of our first three steps essentially is right about 5 meters per second, which is right on the low end of normal. We'd like to see that be above 5, and for our goals would be to get it above 6. So somewhere between 6 meters per second and 7 meters per second is optimal. 6.5 to 7 is exceptional speed. So we're right here at the bottom end of normal, kind of average speed. Pattern itself looks good. So that's a positive. So what we'll look at next is torso rotation. The reason we look at this is because in order to create an effective swing through motion, so as the leg pushes off, it swings through, the body creates a counter torque through the torso. So the upper torso works one way while the lower body works the other way, or the pelvis works the other way, creates a pre-stretch on the core musculature, which allows for a rapid swing through. So what we'd expect to see here is upper torso working equal and sort of opposite of the pelvis, a torso going through a fuller range of motion, but we'd like to see that pattern sort of almost equal and opposite sinusoidals, torso, pelvis. What we see here is we see the pattern for the most part, but it's not real clean on the pelvis side. Okay, and the pelvis has limited mobility relative to the upper torso. Upper torso is moving considerably more. 50 degrees is way more than what we would expect. We usually expect the torso to work more to 25 to 30 degrees, and the pelvis to work more in here between, say, 10 to 15 degrees. So we have too much torso, upper torso movement, not enough pelvis movement. And as a result, the counter-torquing isn't real effective, and that's going to have a dramatic impact on our swing through. So then what we look at then is our push-pull pattern at first at the knee. So here what we're looking at, or what we're looking for, I should say, is a peak speed output at knee extension output prior to foot, so between mid-stance and foot off, or toe off, with a rapid forward flexion as we go to toe off. And on the push-off, the left side looks pretty good. We actually get a real good extension pattern, actually pretty good speed up. I'd like to see it above 200, 250. You know, creeping into 300 would be good. A push-off is not quite as dynamic as the other two, but the overall pattern for the push-off is really nice. On the other hand, when we get into the two push patterns, or two gait cycles, we see peak speed on the right knee occurring just as we get into mid-stance. We kind of get a lull and then a sort of a low-end push followed by a weak flexion pattern, which is going to be a resultant of the core issue. So we've got on the right side a weak push pattern followed by a weak pull pattern. The push pattern is just quad and glute strength in terms of extensor strength, not strength but power, and the swing through is affecting the flexion. When we move to back to the left side, we see a reasonable stretch, extension, but fairly limited swing through as well. So because of that poor torso torquing, we're getting a breakdown in the pattern here, both extension and flexion. Same thing goes for the hip. We expect to see a big push followed by flexion, which we do on the push-off, which looks great. Here we see the push-off occurring essentially at toe off, which we don't want to see, and the push off here on the back on the left side. So right side gait cycle push off is at toe off, which is too late, and same thing happens again with left. So we've got both power output issues as well as coordination issues, and that is both with extension and flexion. So we've got a lot of room to grow. So there's a lot of ability to move that peak speed from 5 meters per second to at least the high 5s, if not into the 6s, in a fairly short period of time. Really quick, we'll take a look at range of motion. Knee range of motion looks pretty symmetric and pretty functional, so we don't have any real limitations per se in terms of the ability to flex or extend the knee. Hip flexion extension looks about the same. There does look like there might be a little bit of limitation on the right side as far as hip flexion extension goes. So that's something we want to watch. And that may be minor, but it may be playing a role in terms of pelvic rotation and some of the breakdowns we see with respect to dynamic core loading or that torso counter torquing. What we'll focus on is just some basic symmetry building, some pattern building, flexion extension, core stability, core torsion or counter torquing, and we'll just start slow with some basic movement, slow movement, just developing pattern, add a little bit of some dynamic stuff as precursors to what we can do down the road.